All right, so in this lesson, our objective is I can define resource allocation and describe why it is important in solving global issues. So let's get started. To refresh our memory, natural resources are resources that are available in nature, right? They're not things that humans make, they're things that humans use, like air, water, sunlight, soil, minerals, forests, wildlife, etc. And there's two different types primarily. Renewable resources can be replenished in a short period of time. And by short, we mean about a human lifespan, about 100 years. Or non renewable resources cannot be replenished in a short period of time. So, just to kind of refresh our memory again, we have a variety of different types of renewable and non renewable resources listed. This is not a complete list, but it is a good kind of reference guide. Now, we are going to be focusing primarily on water. Um, but when we talk about resources, they're not exclusive. For example, they kind of influence each other. For like, if you think of oil and the way that oil can impact water if it's spilled into it, or there's a variety of different pollutions that we'll be taking a look at later in this unit. Okay, so what then, if we know what resources are, what is resource allocation? So, to allocate something, by definition, means to distribute for a particular purpose. Resource allocation, then, is a plan for the use of available resources like water, oil, workers, etc. So, it's distributing resources for a particular purpose. Now, resources can be affected by climate, location, scarcity. Right, if there's not that much of it, if it's a scarce resource, it's very limited in how much we have. They can also be affected by technology and humans' decision making. Right, so either the management or mismanagement. And when we're talking about resource allocation, both short term and long term goals have to be set because we do need things in the immediate future, but we also want to make sure that our kids and our grandkids are going to have things available to them as well. So, when we talk about human activities, all right, humans actually produce an incredible amount of waste, far more than any other animal on the planet, because of our ability to manipulate nature. So these wastes are eventually put into the environment and cause pollution of the natural resources that we so desperately need. So if we take a look at a couple of examples, this is an image of a canal in India, and people get their drinking water from this canal. And you can see the amount of garbage and refuse that's just dumped into the canal. That's going to have a pretty major impact on that natural resource. But that's not something that's limited to India or even any particular area. This image looks really gross, and it is really gross. It looks like a toilet bowl. Unfortunately, for the people who lived in Flint, Michigan, right? Yeah, our neighbor state, Michigan. This is their water back in 2016. The government made a couple of bad decisions, and their water system was a very big deal a couple of years ago. Um, so this is an actual picture of their running water in their sink. Can you imagine if you turned on the sink and that's what came out and you're supposed to wash your hands and drink that? That's disgusting. No Brita filter in the world is going to filter out all that crap. But this is not something that's limited to just pollution in the sense of like making it dirty. We're also experiencing pollution in the sense of plastics. So plastic never goes away. It just breaks down smaller and smaller. And there's so much plastic in the ocean that there's actually a thing called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And in the Pacific Ocean, because of the currents, all the plastic that's dumped into the ocean has accumulated into a garbage patch that's bigger than the state of Texas, which is absolutely massive. It's one of our biggest states, other than Alaska. So there's so much plastic in the ocean that it keeps breaking down that fish are now eating the plastic and humans eat fish. So via V, we are eating our own plastic. And so they've actually found microplastics in human bodies, which is not healthy at all and potentially very dangerous, and something that we're going to have to do something about in the next 20 or 30 years. So we'll see how that pans out and what really intelligent people are able to come up with. Maybe it's you. I don't know. Definitely not me. Um, but yeah, so humans definitely impact the natural resources that we have available to them. Now, the need for effective management is primarily due to the fact that the earth is the only place that we have. Right now, this is not a visual recreation. This is actually a photograph. This is a photograph that was taken in 1968 by the crew of Apollo 8. That's not the crew that landed on the moon. That was Apollo 11. Apollo 8 is the test run where they went to the moon and then orbited the moon and proved that you could get to the moon, orbit the moon, and come back. They never actually set foot on the moon itself. That was 3 missions later. But while they were orbiting the moon, one of the astronauts looked out the window and noticed the the Earth was kind of painted against this black backdrop of space, and it looked like a blue marble. And it just struck him as such an important image that he took out a camera, and while they were orbiting, they orbited a couple of times, and while they were orbiting, he snapped a series of photographs, and this is the most famous of those photographs. So it's known as Earthrise. In 1968, this photograph was so influential, it actually gave rise to Earth Day, because for the first time, people started to see the Earth as a very fragile place in the unimaginable vastness of space. And that's an important concept to keep in mind. Now, that's not the only photograph we have, though. I want to show you one more. Okay. I'm going to move myself over to this side so that you guys get a full view of this photograph. And this is another photograph of Earth, but from a lot farther away. So we sent a Voyager 1 mission that was, it's since left the solar system. But just to give you a sense of how big the solar system is, right, they launched in 1978, and right before we lost contact with Voyager 1, it kind of turned around and took a snapshot of Earth. So this picture, right? So it took 12 years to get out of just the solar system, just our local stellar neighborhood. But this is a picture known as the pale blue dot, and it was taken in 1990. And it's a photograph of Earth from 4 billion miles away. Now, unless you've seen this photograph before, it's probably very difficult to actually locate where Earth is. So I'm going to show you, okay? And we're lucky that we can even see it, because the only reason we can see it is because these are beams of sunlight that were being emitted from the sun. And right in this beam, right, you can see the Earth. It's right there. So that's the Earth from 4 billion miles away. There is nothing around it. It is incredibly isolated. And right now, even if there was something around it, we don't have the technology or capability to go to another place and like move there. So we are really limited in the fact that all this stuff that we rely on so heavily for our survival and our thrival as a species of animals, we need the earth, and there's nowhere else that we can go. So the need to properly manage the natural resources of Earth is absolutely vital. It is not something that is like an option. It's we do this or else, right? There is no planet B, so to speak. I've seen that on a poster somewhere, and I really like that phrase because it's very, very adept. But yeah, so the need for resource allocation is a crucial need, because we need to make decisions responsibly. We need to make sure that we are managing our resources efficiently and effectively. Otherwise, we won't have them. And well, we might have them, but it's not going to last very long. And we're already seeing the impacts of that. And later on in this unit, we'll take a look at some modern issues related to water scarcity and kind of how that's panning out, because 25% of the world right now does not have access to proper drinking water. So this is something that, we're not going anywhere. So we've got to deal with what we have, and what we have is a very small place with a lot of stuff that we need. So we better take care of that stuff. So this is the need for resource allocation, right? If we don't take care of our planet, the earth is going to be fine. A lot of people talk about that, like, well, we need to make sure that we save the earth. The earth is going to outlive us. If you know anything about prehistory and the 4 billion year history of the earth has seen a lot worse than anything that humans have done. We don't need to protect the earth. We need to protect our ability to live on the earth. That is fragile. Human beings are fragile. The earth is fine. Humans might not be able to survive on the earth, though, and that's the threat. Okay, so that concludes our notes for this lesson. All right, our next steps, right? Make sure your notes for this lesson are complete. Okay, complete this lesson's activity, and then take this lesson's mastery check. All right, good luck.